Hello, everybody. Jan Rutherford here with Self-Reliant Leadership. Hey, thanks for being with us. Whether you're watching this live or on a recording, this is where we're going to cover chapter 12 of our book, Becoming a Self-Reliant Leader, How Grit and Disciplined Duty Forge Indomitable Teams. What we've done over the past couple months is we've covered one chapter in a LinkedIn Live or office hours setting. And what we've done is shown a video of the Crucible expedition and some lessons out there. And we've also had a guest on that was a past participant. And I'm really excited about our guest today. His name is Dan Marostica. And Dan has been with Western Union his entire career, coming up on 27 years, a graduate of BYU. And I'm looking at my notes here, Dan, currently the head of consumer protection operations and Western Union Lithuania site leader.
That's right.
Got
Yep.
that?
Yeah.
And we were just talking about the really cool thing on your resume is 19 summits out of 54, 14,000 foot mountains in Colorado. And all those came after your participation on our Crucible in 2017.
Yeah, I would say they happened because of the Crucible, really, because of the commitment I made at the end.
Tell us about that commitment.
Yeah, so at the end of the Crucible, we all got together, we had lunch, and everyone was challenged to make a difficult yet attainable commitment. And I committed to, in the next year, so this was back in 2017, so in 2018, I committed to summit 3 Colorado 14ers. And everyone thought I was nuts, given my experience on the Crucible. And I did 4. And I did 4 with the help of some buddies who went on the Crucible with me and with my family's help as well.
Yeah. And your family, I mean, and they were super supportive of that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a part of that was, if I remember right, Dan, was, you're just wanting to be even healthier. That was a part of it too.
Yeah, it was. I was an athlete in high school and in my early years of college, played basketball. And I can't say that I remained an athlete, as 30s and 40s came. And then when I was on the Crucible, I think I was 53 when I went. I had not maintained my athletic ability.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Well,
I wanted to change that for sure.
Yeah. This chapter of the book is called "The End is Another Beginning," paying it forward. It really is about, kind of at the end of a project, a team, a journey, an adventure. There's always a point where you reflect, so what happened? Did it meet my expectations? How did it change me? What do I commit to? You talked about, that commitment you made, but when you reflect back on your Crucible experience, I mean, what are the things that really stand out to you? Because again, the whole point of the Crucible is it's really different than being in a meeting room somewhere, or a hotel room, and talking about leadership and teamwork.
Yeah. Maybe I can start by explaining why I wanted to go. It's kind of at a time in my career where I had stopped trying. Honestly, I had stopped trying to be a better leader. I was kind of stagnant. And I also knew that the way I learn is by doing. So experiential learning.
Yeah.
And my boss had come back from the Crucible and had actually challenged me to go. And I am competitive. So it was like, of course, I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. But the way that she talked about the Crucible and the experience she had, it was very compelling. So I felt like that's where I could reignite myself and my interest in learning and trying to be a better leader. And what I did wrong, I think, was I I did not have a really good grasp of my limitations. Um, I I was overconfident. I didn't listen in the preparation part. I don't know how many meetings we had to prepare us, and I never had a question. And I just thought I could, take my 1980s backpack and, my overweight self and push through it and get it done.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out that way exactly at the beginning.
Yeah. Do you want to share what happened
Sure.
at the beginning? Yeah.
Sure. So, if I recall, we had to weigh our bags. We had to, you know, you gave us a packing list. I overpacked. My pack was really heavy and it was bulky and ridiculous looking as well. But anyway, we started climbing up. We were in the eastern mountains of Oregon, and we started hiking up this, I don't know, 7.5 mile hike, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. It was a long hike.
And you're kind of forming. We just all met. We're kind of forming, and everyone's trying to show that they're the alpha. And of course, I'm competitive, so I'm trying to stay up at the front, trying to push really hard, and which was crazy for me to even try that. But again, not a very good self-awareness. And about halfway up the trail, I left it all on the trail, you could say. I vomited, projectile vomited all over the place. And I mean, you couldn't hear a pin drop, right? You couldn't hear, I mean, everyone froze. You should have seen the expression on your face. And out of nowhere, this fellow team member, fellow Crucible, fellow hiker, she comes up to me and says, can we switch? Do you want to switch backpacks? And I didn't see a backpack because it was so small, right? She was very small. And I immediately said, yes. Cause I thought, I started to realize my limitations, and if she wanted to carry my backpack, she could carry my backpack. Now I will admit that I drove up there with her. So I drove up to the meeting point, and from Portland, and she told me her story, and I knew her capabilities.
Yeah.
And she was probably the most capable person on the hike.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so it wasn't a hard decision for me to ask for the smaller pack. I really wanted to have the Crucible experience. I didn't want to have to turn around and go home.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, for me, it did, I think, three things. The physical part, it helped me with that, right? She had the heavier pack and I had the lighter pack. It actually gave me hope, right? In that moment, I felt, after, embarrassing myself in front of everybody, it gave me hope. But more than anything, that act of kindness gave me a sense of belonging, like I did belong, because I didn't feel in the moment I belonged until she reached her hand out, and then I felt part of a team.
Yeah. And her name is Candy Cook, PhD at Intel, and a world-class athlete in her own right, and very unassuming, very petite woman. But what I remember, Dan, about that was, that a lot of people have to be convinced to give up their pack because their pride and ego says, I want to do it. And what you signaled to everybody was, hey, this is about the team. If I don't do this, I'm going to slow the whole team down. I might not even make it. You said, gosh, if I don't do this, if I don't swallow my pride and ego and do what's best for the team. And I remember us all talking about that was that changed the group dynamic. That people realized, hey, I can be vulnerable out here. I don't have to be the alpha male or alpha female. That this is about the team and it's about something bigger than oneself. And to me, I mean, that was really remarkable. If you remember the discussions we had after that about it.
I still believe it was more remarkable that Candy would offer the help, right?
Yeah.
That I'm forever grateful because
Yeah.
I was able to continue on the Crucible and I learned so much. I really, it really changed me. So
Yeah. And again, I told you last week when we spoke we've had probably 250 or more people on the Crucibles over the last 10 years, 25 different expeditions. Um, I remember, I like to think I remember everybody that participated, but I really remember you and your story and, just the kindness that you shared with people. You changed the tone and the tenor of the group, this sort of this quiet leadership. And, oftentimes we think of leadership as being out front and pounding your chest and being loud. And you quietly, led. And I remember that the other thing that people remarked on was if they were lucky enough to have a one-on-one conversation with you, how they felt seen and heard in a way that they hadn't before. And so, what a gift that you have as a leader. And again, out there, you were technically a follower, but you led in your own way, and we all learned from it. And so, to me, it was really a really powerful, one of the more powerful experiences I remember out from our Crucible days.
thank you for those kind words and for sharing that. If you remember, you actually had me lead on the way back down. That was pretty meaningful to me.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a long hike. I mean, it was all uphill and it was a long haul. And for those of you listening, it was in the Wallowa Mountains of Eastern Oregon. It's almost like the Switzerland of that part of the country, right on the border of Idaho. There's still wolves out there. We didn't see any, didn't hear any, but we know they're there. So that's when you're in wolf country, you're pretty remote. And if I remember right, unlike a lot of the trailheads where we're not that far from a highway, we were, I think, an hour and a half or 2 hours to trailhead from the closest interstate, which is really far in the continental US to get away from, a trailhead, to find a remote trailhead and then to go 8 miles in. It was, really remote. And we were all dependent on each other, truly. I mean, if there had been an emergency, it would have been a long haul, as we know. Well, what I want to do right now is I want to show a video, and it's from another Crucible, not the one you were on, where I really talked about kind of this chapter 12, paying it forward and what happens at the end. And I'd love for you to watch it and our audience to watch it, and then reflect on what you take away, or what maybe what you remembered. So here we go.
Built in when we started. We went around and everybody was kind of saying what do they want out of it, and fun, get to know each other, learn from each other, have an adventure. And I feel like we marked those off in the last 3.5 days. And it's just thanks for being awesome.
What do you think is the hardest part of this Crucible experience, these expeditions? It's the same thing that's the hardest part in the business world. And that is, after you've participated on a team and developed really strong bonds and relationships, at some point the team disbands, it moves on. And the hard part is saying goodbye. So, I know sometimes this feels like a really selfish pursuit. And as I was talking to Pierce as we're walking out, like, we need to recharge sometimes. We do not have an endless supply of energy. And it's really great to surround yourself with really good people. And it doesn't take that much effort, as Tom said, it's really easy. And I've never met anybody that's uber successful that doesn't have all kinds of people all around them supporting them. Because as you've ever noticed, they all say, well, I have to thank this person, this person, this person. Nobody gets there all by themselves. Nobody. So that's my parting words. And again, I can't thank you all enough from the bottom of my heart for being here and for giving of yourself. I won't forget you guys. And thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
But what the takeaway we want people to have is that they've learned from others, that they're going to channel some of the things they've learned. The whole idea is force multiplying what we've learned out here. And that means carrying some of the things that we've learned forward. It might be insights. It might be models that somebody talked about. It might be the way people helped us feel. But our responsibility as leaders is to grow leaders and to force multiply that out. And if you think about it, if you want to grow your organization, you've got to grow your people. Make you think of anything, Dan?
Yeah, actually, it made me think a little bit about what I did after the Crucible. I began to trust my team, which I really wasn't doing before. I micromanaged, and not just the team I led, but the team I was on. The team with my different colleagues to actually trust them. Start with trust.
Yeah.
I also what I began doing is trying to give my organization in Denver when I was there the opportunity to experience a mini Crucible, which is taking them on 14ers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very happy that I know a couple of folks from that went on those experiences, got the bug, and they've done more 14ers than I have, and so it's kind of like paying it forward a little bit.
Yeah, the way I defined it. Let me find a better where it shows the whole thing. There we go. Let me take this out, and I'm having a little technical glitch. Well, I'll just read it. It's not showing up here. The way I defined it was paying it forward as a process of instilling a strong sense of purpose, meaning, and commitment in those we are privileged to lead, an essential goodwill toward others with the expectation that the chain of generosity continues. So, that's really, again, how we tried to define it in the chapter we wrote. Now, the other thing I know about your story is when you came back, I remember your boss telling me, Dan's trajectory in his career is done a hockey stick. You got some promotions, you got promoted and you went to Barbados, then you got promoted again, went to Lithuania. I'm not saying the Crucible is responsible for that, but if I remember right, a big part of your career trajectory really changed afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. And my outlook on really what my role was, instead of I was a lot more focused on myself. And the phrase you taught us, leaders eat last, right? That's caring more about your team, or putting them first before yourself, and the power of that is amazing. I've been more successful because I've let my team thrive rather than micromanaging them and being the taskmaster.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that whiteboard behind you and what's at the quote at the top of it.
Yeah. So people help support what they create, right? So that's all about getting people involved, getting the right people involved. Avoiding trying to be the hero rather than the person that orchestrates getting the right skill set together and getting people, when people are involved, they have a passion and energy, and things get done that are amazing. So, but the whiteboard, so right after the Crucible, I had a whiteboard that had all these tasks, right? All the, get this done by this date, et cetera, et cetera. And I erased it all, and I wrote down things from the Crucible that I wanted to remember. And I've added some things there. I've had some additional leadership training. I've read a lot of books. I've, some things that resonate with me, I've also added to the whiteboard. But so I had that in Denver, and then when I was moving to Barbados, I took a picture of it and rewrote it again in Barbados, and then same thing when I moved here to Lithuania in January. My leadership whiteboard followed me.
Yeah. What do people say when they see it? Whether they're direct reports or peers or superiors, what do people say when they see
Well,
that?
when people pay attention to it, because they don't always pay attention to it, right? But
Yeah.
People do kind of stare at it, and it tells folks where my head's at and where I'm coming from, and what type of leader I'm striving to be, because I'm striving, right? Every one of these things I haven't mastered. And you see little dots, like, next to different words. I change that. Those are magnets, and I move it. Each week I'm moving those things. I'm trying to work on something else.
Yeah.
That I know I'll never master them, but I'll certainly try like heck to improve myself in those areas.
Yeah. And a lot of these takeaways were from the veterans, the special operations veterans. And people are always surprised that, the two in there, and I can't see, I'm looking at your original one I have a picture of. You
Yeah.
had be kind, have fun, be patient. Those aren't things that you would expect you would learn from special operations soldiers. And then what you have highlighted in green there in the middle is courage, humility, and discipline. What do those mean to you as a leader, when you're working with your
Well,
team?
so many different things. The courage is courage to make the tough call, right? When it's important to be kind and have empathy, and it's also important to be kind and empathetic to your team, and that sometimes that means making a tough call and asking someone to leave the team, and that takes courage to I don't know, present in front of executives more senior than you, and courage to take on new assignments, et cetera, et cetera. Humility is it is what the definition is of it, but it's also recognizing that you don't have all the answers. And I as I've gotten a little bit older, I know I don't have all the answers. I used to think when I was 17 I had all the answers, but now I don't. I realize I have to rely on others who are subject matter experts. And then discipline, you have to have a repeatable process as a leader. You have to, if you claim you're going to do something, you've got to do it, and you've got to continue to do it. If I'll give you an example. So one of the things we did in Barbados, and what we do here, is on Fridays we go to Friday drinks. Now, I don't drink, right? But I go to Friday drinks, and I committed that every Friday I would dedicate to whoever wanted to come to hang out with the site leader that they can. And so I do that. I fulfill that commitment. I don't maybe stay as late as everybody does, but I'm there for a few hours at least. But you've got to follow through on your commitments. That takes discipline, as my point.
Yeah. Well, as you described, what happened after the Crucible, this commitment to climb mountains, to be a different leader. I mean, to me, that all boiled down to, discipline, that you said, hey, I'm going to do these things. And then, the discipline is really, to me, is a time management exercise. It's like the discipline to basically devote time to things, to people, to health, to fitness, to whatever it might be. And I see that as one of the hardest things as an executive coach, to get leaders to basically pivot. And because almost every leader I work with says, I want to be more strategic. And I know in order to do that, I've got to develop my people so I can delegate. So again, there's two things they need to do: spend more time one-on-one with people and spend more time, working on the business instead of in it. And you would think that's an easy exercise, just say no to things and carve out things on your calendar, but it really requires a lot of discipline. It's hard to say no to things. And that's, to me, the heart of discipline is literally saying no to things.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What were the things that you have found it hard to say no to?
I don't know if I have that problem at this point. I'm comfortable saying no. I think that I don't know if everyone is like this, but I know when I was younger, a lot younger, I wanted to please everybody, so I wanted to say yes to everything. I think everyone kind of goes through that phase, even further on as they get older. But I guess I don't have a problem saying no at this point, because I have seen the consequences of me saying yes and then failing and not following through on my commitments, and that is something that a place that I don't like being in. And so I'm careful about what I commit to, but I take risks, and at least I try. If when I say yes, I try.
Yeah. I always call that being bold. You got a fan that's watching right now, Sean?
Oh, Sean. He was in Barbados. He was in Barbados with me.
He's one of your Barbados folks?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, thanks for listening in, Sean. Dan, I wanted to read to you one of the last things we wrote in this chapter. And it was about a quote from a 19th century Swiss philosopher, Henri Frederick Amiel. He wrote, "Our duty is to be useful, not according to our desires, but according to our powers." On many occasions, Crucible participants discuss what they want to do versus what they should do. And we question how they will use their gifts to serve others and pay it forward. Participants are asked to consider whether their goals are truly aspirational enough, and if sacrifices for the benefit of others will make them more fulfilled than being focused on their own comfort, pleasure, and personal achievement. What do you think?
It's a wise philosopher, Jim.
Yeah.
There's great satisfaction in helping others grow and develop, and whether that's watching your children grow and develop into adults, or watching new first level employees come in, and then watching them succeed over time, and to play a small part in that is amazing. And so that's more satisfying than any promotion or the trappings of being working in a corporate life. It's watching people develop and grow is the best.
Well, I think that's a big opportunity in the business world. I think is, we know that we tend to promote people that are good at their job. That's who gets promoted. Instead of really looking at, hey, who are the people that really, love to develop other people, that basically realize that leadership is not about you. It isn't. and it's, is, if I look at John Wooden's pyramid of success, as he would always describe it, was, bringing people to their full potential, not making them perfect, but, whatever their full potential is. And I think great leaders recognize potential in other people, and they put other people first. I think, there's a really great podcast on Freakonomics called Why Are There So Many Terrible Bosses? And it's really interesting about, it's not because, people are terrible. It's because, we've promoted the wrong people. Oftentimes people that are really good individual contributors aren't necessarily people that can develop people. It's kind of like if you took chemistry or any really hard subjects in college, chances are the professor really knew their stuff, but they didn't know how to teach. They didn't love teaching. They loved the subject, and it didn't mean they could teach it. And I think the same thing goes for leaders. And, in whatever way, whether you're an individual contributor or a leader, I think that the whole idea is, in some way, shape, or form, you get to a point in your career and you realize that it's about paying it forward. You've been at one company your whole career, which is really unusual these days. I mean, you survived lots of executive changes and all kinds of different things. And you're in a publicly traded company. I mean, lots of pressure. What do you attribute your longevity there and your success? Because if somebody's under 35 years old these days, their chances of them being at one company for their whole career is pretty slim.
Well, I love the company I work for. I love what we do. I think we're a force for good in the world. So that's something that keeps me here. Now, how I've been able to survive here, a lot of luck, I guess. I don't assume that I have a job. It's like every 2 weeks. I just assume that you restart every 2 weeks, and you got to keep trying and pushing forward. And
Yeah.
But I also have had some great leaders that I've learned from, and who have given me opportunity when maybe they shouldn't have. I don't know, but they trusted me and saw potential in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. And I've been willing to reinvent myself in terms of my subject matter expertise. I've started in sales, went into operations, went into compliance. Now I'm back in operations, and I've lived in a lot of different places doing that. So
yeah. Well, somebody says this is your key to success. So that's pretty nice compliment, Dan. My gut on you has always been you're way more of a giver than a taker, and a very generous person. And as I've said, I love your your quiet leadership style, the way that you're able to move people and to touch people, and that's a gift. That's it. Well, I'd love, as we kind of wrap up, I'd love for you to, kind of get the last word on, whether you've got a challenge you'd like to put out to people, or a way that you would kind of recap, your best leadership or career advice for those listening. Big ask.
I would say lean into your fears. So, challenge yourself. I am scared of heights. I have a healthy distaste for being close to the edge of something, and I could die if I fall off. Yet the 14er thing is not just the physical part of it, it's that fear of heights that I have, and respecting it and maybe overcoming it. I don't know if I've overcome it or not, but but leaning into your fears, because if you do that, then you create new opportunities for yourself that you otherwise wouldn't have had.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Dan, I really appreciate you being with us today. This book right here comes out a week from today, August 20th. You can pre-order it today anywhere you get a book. But I wrote it along with Jackie Jordan, who was on that crucible in the Wallowa Mountains in 2018. And Jackie just did a wonderful job in the book capturing Dan's story and other people's stories. And we hope you'll get a copy, not only for yourself, but for a leader that you're mentoring. And, what we tried to do was in each chapter is basically take you along on what happens predictably on a crucible, that there's preparation, then there's the first steps we take, and then there's the first nightly briefing, and there's the first obstacle, and there's ways when the team really starts to gel. And we tried to tell a story from the crucible in the book, and then how that really relates to the business world. And we riddled the book with plenty of questions to get people thinking. And for those that are interested, if we've also got a workbook that goes along with that. And if you'd like a copy of that, just connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to send that over to you. And Dan, again, thank you for being on. And you said something about you believe in what you do, the noble purpose. And I think the tagline at Western Union is still, "You move money for good." Is it? Am I getting it right?
It's changed now, but that is kind of the essence, though.
Yeah.
We help the aspiring populations of the world, which is noble. It's a noble endeavor.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's terrific. Again, I really appreciate you being on with me. I can't think of a better person to, bring chapter 12 to a close. And next week on the 20th, the day our book launches, I'll be on with Jackie, my co-author, and we'll really talk about how this whole thing came together. And, we're just excited that we've got a baseline of what we've learned in 10 years. And, we know that not everybody can go and participate for all kinds of reasons, but we hope that the book is the best simulation that we've got out there, along with all the videos we've got on YouTube. So again, Dan, thanks for being on today. And for those of you that are listening live, thank you. For those of you listening later on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, again, if you have any questions or you want to reach out, just the best place is LinkedIn. And we'll see everybody next week.
Thank you, Jan.
Everybody.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Dan.